Hi, I'm Nick,
And I'm Miki.
and this is Puzzles, a How I Met Your Mother Re-Rewatch.
Each week, we'll be breaking down episodes of How I Met Your Mother, mostly spoiler-free, celebrating the show,
Critiquing it,
asking what aged well.
and what aged poorly.
Why is it called Puzzles, Nick?
That's the puzzle.
This is episode 4 of Cockamice and Chads.
Hello, Miki.
Hey, Nick, what's up?
Hay fever is up. Can't go outside
really?
with my eyes itching up a storm.
I don't know how you survived living in Atlanta for 5-6 years.
Barely. Lots of Zyrtec and Flonase.
You probably kept them in business.
Absolutely. The Zyrtec is staving it off, but my eyes...
I don't get allergies the way you do, but for like a month, I was basically taking Zysol every day, and then I don't think it made that big a difference, honestly, so I just stopped.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's like Zyrtec, yeah. But I'm feeling energized to be here talking about these were good episodes. I'm excited to get into them.
I'm not as high on these episodes as I think you were.
I feel like they've been getting better and better since we started strong, but I think since the second, third episode, they've consistently gotten a little better.
I feel like it's a little bit of a lull here. Are you still not watching Andor, by the way?
Oh, Andor? The
Yeah.
Star Wars? No, I did put it in my to-watch list on the Disney Plus
Okay.
app.
You absolutely should.
I haven't watched it yet, but...
They're already halfway through the second season, the last season. They're only doing 2.
Okay.
And, yeah, it's the first 3 episodes were... It was okay, it was good, but, it was like kind of a return or breather. The most recent 3 are amazing and also, kind of painful, but a good pain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very topical. Starting a rebellion against oncoming imperial dictatorship. Yeah, and Tony Gilroy, who's writing all these, is a fantastic screenwriter, and he the tension is really high. Even scenes are just like talking, basically. It's kind of incredible.
And do I have to be that big of a... I mean, I like Star Wars, but could I get into this being a casual Star Wars fan?
No, yeah, absolutely, you can. It's like if you've seen Star Wars once, you'll know enough. Like there's an empire and it's crushing people and there are aliens and there's robots and people are trying to get by, but the empire is coming. And that's pretty much all you need to know to enjoy the show, I think.
Well, I'm going to bump this up on my priority list since I think, like we talked about last time, there's just so many good seasons of good shows coming out in the next few weeks. I'll tell you what we did watch this week. We watched the first episode of season 2 of The Rehearsal.
Okay, I haven't seen that.
Do you know Nathan Fielder?
I've heard of him. I haven't seen any of his stuff though.
I would watch Nathan for You if I were you. The Rehearsal season 1 was kind of hit or miss, but Nathan for You, it's hysterical. The whole premise is there's this guy who he's kind of socially awkward, and he has people onto his show under the premise that he's a business consultant and he's going to help their small businesses improve. But he'll propose these really harebrained schemes, and like there's a really funny episode where he decides to help a realtor. So he proposes that she advertise herself as the ghost realtor because apparently really high percentage of Americans believe in ghosts. So he says if you hire a psychic and an exorcist to come in and cleanse the house and do readings and stuff, then that'll help your business. And the whole thing is they're supposed to be like joke ideas, but the participants think that he's legit like offering this advice.
I have trouble watching things like that where someone goes in like seriously thinking they're getting like I don't know, advice or an interview or something, but it's like a comedian who's totally like playing them for a fool. I don't know, something about that rubs me the wrong way.
But it's also really genuine. It's so hard to explain his comedy, but he just has a relationship with comedy in a way that I haven't seen other comedians portray. So it sounds like he's kind of pranking them, but he's honestly not. But yeah, I mean, it's if you couldn't get into jury duty, you might not be able to get into this.
Yeah, like if it was like the Colbert Report where he's interviewing people kind of deserve being made fools of. I totally am into that. But like normal people, it's like, yeah, I feel bad for them.
Well, that's about all the TV I watched this week.
I also saw the 20th anniversary of Revenge of the Sith in theaters.
Oh,
They're
did you?
also very topical. Religious nuts who decide to take over a republic, and the Senate just votes to let them do it. And yeah, yeah, good times. Nothing topical there at all. And it started because of a trade war
Oh,
in the outskirts of the galaxy. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think we owe
yeah.
George Lucas an apology for he used very bad dialogue, but the kind of structure of the universe was very apt, I think.
Yeah, the Star Wars films from that era, I think I've watched each of them exactly one time, and I felt that was more than enough.
Did you maybe see it with me when we were at Bates? Because it came out in
Probably.
2005, this
Oh,
last
then
one.
we must have gone to the theaters and seen them.
It might have even been the midnight showing, if
That sounds like something we would have done. I feel like we did that for Harry Potter.
I do not recall that. Which Harry Potter would have come out around then?
There would have been a few when we were in
Okay.
college, but no, I'm 100% sure you would have dragged me to a midnight showing of
Uh,
one of the Star Wars movies.
well, who knew that Harry Potter would age much faster than Star Wars with J.K.
Yeah.
Rowling?
Well, there's some themes of neo-Nazism in Harry Potter, so,
True. I guess,
not
yeah,
quite
themes
dated
wise,
itself
but then
either.
also, the not so subtle racist stuff in it.
It's all
Ah,
feeling too real.
yeah. Anyway,
Anyway, well,
yeah. How about we get to the shows?
yeah, let's go back to something that might still be relatable, might not be relatable. We'll see. Well, I'm up first again this week. I got the Slutty Pumpkin, season 1, episode 6. So the air date is October 24th. Why did I write 2025? That could not be true. It must have been 2005. They only really highlighted a couple guest stars in this one. So there's Mike, Robin's boyfriend, if we want to use that term.
Robin doesn't want to use that term.
No, the whatever we're calling him, the guy she's been seeing for a couple weeks. So Mike is played by Jeremy Gabriel. He hasn't been in very much at all, actually. His IMDb
Hmm.
list was very short. I didn't really recognize him in a lot. Although I swore he looked like one of the guys from Dawson's Creek, which I've never seen, but I think it's Pacey. I don't know. The
I've
other
never seen
boy.
it either. I'll just believe you.
Yeah, that could be our next podcast. A show neither of us have ever seen.
Yeah.
Hula Girl is played by Krizia Bajos, and she's been in a lot of voice acting roles. Again, not much that I've watched. I think some of them are actually video games, and Nick is into video games.
I didn't recognize any particular one that I hadn't
Okay.
played.
Well, anyway, the recap. It's Halloween in New York, and Ted spends his Halloween at a rooftop party waiting for the return of a missed connection he met at a party 4 years before, much to Barney's annoyance. Robin goes on a double date with Lily and Marshall, but finds the girlfriend costume just doesn't fit. Remember missed connections on Craigslist?
Yep, yep.
This would have been a
I wasn't
perfect
there.
example of that. Okay, kids, I feel like you and I are sort of like future Ted, and we're talking to the
Yes,
listeners
we
that
are.
I maybe we're being optimistic. We're thinking we're going to get some Gen Z audience members.
We'll have one very attentive Gen Z listener who's going to be very rapt by this explanation.
Gather around, kiddos. Let me tell you of the Craigslist, which actually still exists. I was on it the other day because I was curious
Is
if
it
it still
really?
existed. It is. It looks exactly the same. It's a really janky website, and you could go on there to like it was like a combination of Facebook Marketplace and job boards, Indeed. Yeah, and they had this section called Missed Connections. So it was perfect example if you went to a party or something and you like met someone you were interested in, or let's say you were riding the subway and you locked eyes with somebody across the subway car, but you never got their name or number. You could go on Craigslist and say, hey, at this date and time, we ran into each other. If this is you, contact me. Anyway, so we, like every episode, we start with the kids on the couch in their prison, their couch prison. And we learn from future Ted that Robin apparently in the future is a big fan of Halloween, but back in 2005, she was too cool for it. So we start at McLaren's, and Lily comes in all excited, and she's telling Marshall, "Hey, our costumes came in the mail." And apparently, the year before, Marshall was Tarzan, and he got hypothermia or something. He was too cold, which is certainly possible in New York at that time in late October. Barney, in true Barney fashion, says that okay, Halloween is in the one night of the year where girls can unleash their inner hoe bag. You know, if you're a witch, you're a slutty witch. If you're a cat, you're a slutty cat. If you're a nurse, you're a slutty nurse. This kind of reminded me of Mean Girls, actually, where I don't, I feel like kids know what that movie is,
And then there's also just the musical too, so
which I refuse to see. I actually really, I've listened to, I probably have, okay, listeners, I am obsessed with Broadway musicals, and that is a really good musical. I could not bring myself to watch the movie. I feel like they're just going to butcher both the musical and the original 2004 film.
yeah, yeah, I
I couldn't
haven't
do it.
heard great things about it.
Although Jenna Fisher is in it.
I'm sure if anything's wrong with it, it's not her.
Yes, I would watch it for her, but that's about it. Well, so Marshall asks Robin what she's going to do for Halloween, and she mentions that she's been seeing this guy Mike for a couple weeks, and Lily gets so excited. So Robin says, "Well, we're not really boyfriend girlfriend at this point. We've only been seeing each other for a couple weeks. We're not ready to go public." Barney's input is that Mike must be married if they're not ready to go public. Such a cynic.
Married.
Married. But Lily encourages Robin to trot Mike out so that they can judge him. And Marshall and Lily are being such uncool parents right now. I actually really enjoy this dynamic in the group.
Also, before we move on, I wanna point out something that I noticed here. I don't know if we ever see this either before this episode or after this episode. There's a very brief flash when they show Marshall from an angle pointing from the other direction on the booth, and you see a wall. There's a
What?
wall where the camera is looking through normally. So there's only I think one time I'll have use a time code. 1 minute 36 seconds.
Let's see. Oh, yes, where it says a sign behind him, spirits and beer.
Yeah, yeah. So that's the
Good
wall where the camera usually
catch.
is. I'm trying to figure out like why they did this angle and why do we only get this one shot and they like almost never see that shot. As far as I know, again,
So Ted enters, and Robin innocently asks Ted what he's going to do for Halloween. And the whole gang groans because they know he's going to wait for the slutty pumpkin. Lily explains that every Halloween, Ted goes up to the roof to wait for the slutty pumpkin. Robin wants to know who that is. So we get a flashback to a rooftop Halloween party, and future Ted explains that 4 years prior, he had met this girl, just pops out of nowhere, and it is shot quite literally. She's just, I don't know what she was doing on the ground, but all of a sudden she stands up right in front of Ted, and there's this pumpkin, and this was apparently this girl he met in like the sexiest pumpkin outfit. And Robin wants to know, well, how can a pumpkin costume be slutty? But it was carved in strategic places, he said. Ted starts to talk about the slutty pumpkin. He saw her mixing a drink, Kahlua and root beer, which she called the Tootsie Roll,
because it tastes
because
like
it's
an
a
alcoholic Tootsie Roll.
alcoholic
Sorry.
Tootsie Roll. And Nick and I were going to actually make this at home and try it. We neither of us had luck. First, I managed to find a can of root beer, and I couldn't find Kahlua, so I bought a tiny little thing of Bailey's. And you didn't even get any. You weren't able to even get that
No.
far, were you?
I mean, I would have been able to find root beer if I needed to, but the liquor store nearby was closed down entirely. So we may do this later.
I like that it sounds genuinely disgusting, but, I'm down for it for, like, the season 1 recap. RIP your liquor store, by the way. Speaking of
Yeah, don't know what
small
happened.
businesses going under, my god.
Yeah, the economy is starting to tank.
Yep, the
Fun
liquor
times
stores are
ahead.
going under, we're in trouble.
I know, right?
So, as Ted's telling the story, it's you can tell that he's told this so many times, the gang knows him so well because they keep finishing his sentences for him. They've clearly heard the story so many times. Something, the gang says went terribly wrong. So you get another flashback. You're in the apartment, and Lily's giving out some Halloween candy to a kid, which Is this a thing in New York or in large cities? Will kids go trick or treating in apartment buildings, like door to door?
I imagine it would be kids in the building, but I guess maybe I don't know, maybe certain buildings will sign up to be part of in neighborhoods. It's just possible.
Maybe. I don't remember that ever happening to me in Boston. I don't know if you've because we've both lived in
Yeah.
larger cities and
I mean, I know that in Somerville, people, like, be out on their porches with candy rather than have people, like, go up and knock on the door or anything.
I guess see we need to get access to the building. So maybe this kid, yeah, like they lived in that building or, like a
Although,
friend
to be
did.
fair, like, these are probably, like, kind of old buildings, and they probably maybe even, like, during trick or treat, like, have the door open and there's just enough
Maybe.
people
I
that's not, like, I don't know. New
don't know.
Yorkers,
It's
if
just
you've experienced this, let us know.
yeah, I was curious. Well, anyway, Lily's dressed as Sunny, and Marshall comes out to reveal that he's dressed like Cher. Ted comes in and again telling the parents of the group, "Hey guys, I've met the perfect woman." Like, I feel like we're going to hear that a lot from Ted.
Mhm.
She loves Star Wars, and immediately Marshall cuts him off and wants to know what the Slutty Pumpkin's position is on Ewoks. Is this a thing? Like, do people actually dislike Ewoks in the Star
Yeah,
Wars
well, actually, it's
community?
gonna come up in a later episode in one of Barney's theories.
I remember that.
But, yeah, so Ewoks there, in the last of the original trilogy are these cute little bear-like creatures, and they're maybe a little too cutesy for some people, even though, they do a lot of killing and war making at the end of the movie. So, there's some mixed opinions on it.
I mean, I
I'm
like
I'm okay with
Ewoks.
them. I do think they're a little too cute, but, yeah, it's okay.
Well, you're also older than me, so but only by, like, a year, so I don't know if
I mean,
I
yeah,
guess
I don't
I
think
don't
so.
wanna spoil Barney's theory, but maybe that would
Yeah, we'll talk
bear
about it when we
out.
get.
Well, we also learned that the Slutty Pumpkin is a marine biologist, and she studied penguins in Antarctica. And then Ted says, "Hey, Lily, where's that Kit Kat that I set by the candy bowl?" And, we've come to find that the Slutty Pumpkin wrote her phone number on the Kit Kat bar, which actually is a really cute way, I think, to give someone your number. I could go downstairs and steal a Kit Kat from my daughter's Easter basket. Well, I'll leave it alone. Ted realizes that
I'm sorry.
Lily has given away the Kit Kat with the Slutty Pumpkin's phone number on it as part of the trick or treat candy. So he furiously like chases after the kid and his mom down the hallway, just rips the bag of candy from the kid and starts frantically digging through it. And like, where's the Kit Kat? Where's the Kit Kat? And the mother, in meanwhile, is like clinging to her child while this guy's having you know, a, an absolute mental breakdown. I really love Kit Kats. I would do that for a normal Kit Kat.
So do we wanna talk about Marshall and Drag in
Oh,
this scene and
sure.
how it's used?
Yeah.
I mean, at least it didn't seem like in this particular scene, it didn't seem so bad. I mean, yeah, it's a joke that Marshall happened to be dressed like a woman, but at least in this scene, he's relatively confident about it. He's not ashamed. He's just owning it. So it's a joke, but it's kind of, as far as these go, it seems like it's okay. Like Ted doesn't make any side comments about it. Maybe if Barney is there, he would have, but fortunately, we don't have that. But at the same time, the joke is kind of seems like just like, haha, Marshall is in drag. So I don't know. What do you
I
think,
think
Mickey?
the problem with it, although now that you point it out, it's kind of surprising that Marshall was so cool about that based on how we see him react to being accused of being a gay pirate
Hmm.
later in the
Yeah.
episode. So we
Well,
talk about
let's get
that.
back to that. Yeah, let's get
Yeah.
back to that.
But no, I think with the scene, like the joke is it's more the inversion of the roles, right? You would expect Lily to be Cher and it's flipped, which I think that's fine. Well, so then we're back to McLaren's. We learn that Ted, every year, every Halloween since that missed connection, he waits on the rooftop for the return of the Slutty Pumpkin, which I guess maybe the same party happens every year on the rooftop. I
Seems to
think that's
be.
plausible. So Barney says, well, she could be engaged or married or, God forbid, fat. And the group groans, that Ted is doing this yet again. This is how he's choosing to spend his Halloween. Well, I'll share my feelings about that later. So we're at the apartment and Lily and Marshall are trotting out there these amazing. They got some great costumes. This is like Dragon Con level.
Yeah, yeah. It's pretty good.
Yeah, Nick and I we went to Dragon Con a few years in a row and like honestly, like sometimes I would just get a cup of coffee and sit down and just watch people walk by. I would just people
So
watch for, like, an hour or 2.
probably 90% of the audience will have no idea what this is. So you've probably heard of Comic-Con. That's a, convention for nerds and geeks of all types to go and see, actors in their favorite shows and, people who've done, like, art based on those things, and people who, like, do cosplay or costumes. And then Dragon Con is, like, the largest fan-run version of this kinda thing, whereas, like, the Comic-Con is like an industry event, and the Dragon Con
Yeah.
is in Atlanta every year. It's a pretty good time if you happen to go. There's
I
also a
know,
really cool parade where people are all in their costumes going downtown Atlanta. It's a big production. Also interesting because it's on the same weekend as a big college football game, and so there's a mix of you have, like, mostly the nerdy people in costumes, and then there's a few people who look like they're going to a fancy college football game who are very confused. It's quite fun.
I didn't realize that, overlapped every year, which would explain a lot of awkward subway rides on the
Labor Day
market.
weekend. Yep.
Their costumes are very impressive, just like the craftsmanship, honestly, that goes into some of them, even when I don't get the references. But
Mm.
Lily and Marshall apparently just ordered these. They spent $100 each on each costume for what ends up being a $50 prize. But you know what? They're there for the glory, not for the money. Ted also asks Marshall if he's wearing eyeliner, and Marshall says it's weirdly hot, right? You know what? It is. I don't hate guyliner.
Yeah, it looks good on Marshall.
Yeah, he can pull it off. Maybe I should point out too, 2005, this is when the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie came out.
Yes, and
It
I
was
mean, it's weird
big,
that they weren't saying. I guess they couldn't for copyright reasons, right? But,
probably. Yeah,
yeah, I mean,
because
it's
later
clearly Johnny Depp as Captain
yeah,
Jack Sparrow.
and later Robin points out like, "Oh, wow, this is like a million gay pirates this year." Every year you get that costume, right? This was probably actually exactly how everybody was dressing up that year. I wouldn't be surprised.
Mm.
So Ted says he's going to be a hanging Chad again this year because that is the costume the slutty pumpkin met him in, and he wants to be recognizable. This is something we definitely need to explain, even possibly to our contemporaries, because it's been a minute. Well, of course, part of the joke here is like even 4 years after meeting the slutty pumpkin, that's still a dated reference. This is a super dated reference now. Yeah, I
Marshall
remembered
says,
what
like,
it was.
what a sad commentary on the state of our.
Our national attention span.
Yeah. Yeah, tell us about having Chads, Mickey.
This is more your wheelhouse, so please jump in with corrections or any additional information. So, what this costume is referring to, back during the 2000 presidential election between George Bush and Al Gore, this was one of those rare situations where we did not know the next morning who won. And part of that had to do with a recount in Florida. So, Florida, particularly some counties in Florida, back in the day, there was not the electronic voting systems that we have in place today, which, apparently are wrought with fraud and, whatever. Back then, they had paper ballots, and hanging chads were when you had a fragment from a punch card paper ballot, which hadn't fully popped off. So it was kind of like inconclusive, I guess, who you had voted for. Am I explaining that well?
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, this happened enough in Florida, and it was such a tight race that they were trying to do this recount, but then there was, I guess, a deadline where you have to call the race, and they weren't going to meet that deadline, and it became a whole thing. It ended up going before the Supreme Court, and ultimately the recount was called off, and the election was called in Bush's favor.
Yeah, we could have had a very different history since then if Gore was in office. The first foray of the Supreme Court into, like, being overtly political actor and, putting his thumb on the scale for our politics these days. So, good times has been had by all since then.
Of course, now I fantasize about those days and think about how comparatively things were di this was the end of the world for me back in, I guess this was like early high school for me, and I kinda yearn for those days.
I do think that a lot of things that happened during the George W. Bush administration were, like, dry runs for kind of things that we're seeing now.
Well,
Just,
you're
like, lower
probably right.
scales, like, purges of, like, lawyers from the Justice Department and like trying to get around the attorney general to implement a program to spy on Americans, and yeah, and of course the Iraq War like screwed us over for decades to come. So we're just barely getting out of that when this all happened. So anyway,
This
I'm
has
not gonna
been
rant. This is not
NPR.
this is not story time for
Well, we had to
politics.
talk. We
This
had
is
to
how
give
I
a
met
little
your mother.
context. This is yes.
Yeah,
Well, so Marshall follows Lily into the bathroom. She says she has to pee, and when Ted questions this, Marshall explains it's an elaborate costume. I get it.
that's
There's
funny.
there's been an outfit or two where I've needed assistance. They go to the restroom, and then you hear Danger Zone playing in the hallway. So Ted opens the door, and in comes Barney dressed as one of the characters from Top Gun. I don't know which one because I haven't seen the original.
I'm assuming it's Tom Cruise. I mean, whoever that character is in that show.
Yeah, I don't even remember who else is in it, but yeah, okay, let's say Tom Cruise. Barney has also brought Ted a costume. I don't know which pilot wants him to be, but sounds like
His
they're gonna.
wingman, I'm assuming whoever that character is in this movie, because I've never seen Top Gun.
That's probably where the term wingman came from in the first place. That
Well, I mean,
movie.
from fighter pilots, yes. Not the movie itself.
Oh, I thought the movie just invented that term.
No, no, it did not.
Nick is shaking his head very vigorously at me.
It came from a movie with Tom Cruise about
Tom Cruise invented military terms. Now, I'm sure it's more popularized since the movie anyway. Like,
perhaps,
now it's
perhaps,
like,
yes.
hey, I'm going to the bar with my wingman. We hear that how many times in this show? I'm sure if it were not for Top Gun, it wouldn't be in the vernacular. So Barney is, as usual, trying to rope Ted into one of their little misadventures. This actually seemed like an awesome plan. I would have done this. Barney wants Ted to go to Victoria's Secret Halloween party. I was going to look this up and see if this was actually a thing. Do you know if this is actually a thing?
No idea.
Oh, I just assume it is. And Barney jokes that Ted's Chad won't be hanging by the end of the night. That's a solid joke. It's a gross but solid
Mhm.
joke. Ted will not change his plans, and Barney's, Ted, come on, like Victoria's Secret party compared to a Halloween party in the rooftop with a bunch of Yale preppies bringing back their a cappella group to get. I guess so. Maybe this annual Halloween party is put on by like other people in the building who went to Yale or something. Because I
Yeah,
don't know if
sure.
we know this yet, but like Ted and Marshall and Lily went to Wesleyan, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I think
I
it's
don't know
just
how they
people
know
in the
these
building who
people.
happen to have gone to Yale or one of them did and have classmates.
Well, it might explain why Ted doesn't really know that many people at the party. If it was like an invite, but for a building party. Because later Barney kind of he hassles him for that a bit. Well, Barney does a self five and exits.
Well, before he says something about, like, it's just him and his hands, and so you think that's what Barney often does when he gets stood up? Just, like, him and his hands?
What? Hold on, I gotta go back and look at this.
I was making a
Okay,
slightly dirty joke. That's what happened
I
there.
thought you were, but I thought maybe that was a dirty joke that I missed in the episode itself.
I don't know if it was intended to be, 'cause I didn't hear, like, a laugh, but
Maybe it went over the audience's head.
it's possible.
Yeah, Barney says, "Okay, so well, it looks like it's just the 3 of us, self by." Oh, okay, I see why you say that. Yeah, well, I read it as dirty, but not as dirty as a hanging Chad. So as Barney is leaving, Robin comes in and says, "Hey, Chad, how's it hanging?" So everyone's just kinda giving Ted a hard time about this costume. And Robin says that Mike's going to be meeting them at the apartment, and then she says, that there's, like, a zillion gay pirates out there, which, as we mentioned earlier, tracks because that's the year
Mhm.
Pirates came out. Pirates of the Caribbean, not Pirates the Porn, which I have also seen.
Wait, what?
You heard it here, folks. Oh, this was, like, a really, really, like, high budget porn that came out
Oh, I have
probably around the
heard of
same time.
this, yes.
It wasn't bad. So, Robin, tells Marshall and Lily, "Oh yeah, like I kind of joked with Mike about dressing up, but we decided not to do anything." So then you get a knock on the door, and Mike shows up dressed as Hansel from Hansel and Gretel. So Robin's totally embarrassed and says something like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like I was just joking. It's so hard to convey tone over email." So I don't know what this email was between the two of them where they were joking about dressing up like Hansel and Gretel, but clearly there was a miscommunication. Poor Mike. He's such a sweetheart. So we're on the roof. Barney has followed Ted up. Barney's complaining there's like 7 chicks here. And then you see the guy in front of Barney take off his wig, and Barney corrects himself. Okay, 6 chicks. So yeah, I guess like this is an episode. It's Halloween. It's an opportunity to make jokes about this. We got a lot of guys. And then you hear a group of a cappella singers start singing. They're called the Shaggerettes, class of 1995, singing "My
Is that
Body
so? Is that
Lies."
supposed to be a play on something? You
You know
recognize
what?
that,
Usually, a cappella groups names are usually pun based. I didn't get it.
or it has something to do with music?
That was another thing I did actually want to look up. I was curious if it was a real a cappella group at Yale. I do listen to a cappella, college a cappella groups on Spotify. I've never heard of them.
Nope. I'm just finding a reference to How I Met Your Mother wiki.
Hmm. I know that the Whiff and Poofs are real from Gilmore Girls. That is an
Oh,
actual Yale a cappella group,
I believe
and
that.
they're not half bad.
Okay.
These guys are fine. They're kind of a weird choice of song. They're singing
Yeah, like,
"My Body."
did they just pick the lamest, probably cheapest to get the rights to play on TV songs? Is probably what happened there.
Maybe. They're probably acapella is such an easy target. People love to make fun of acapella groups. You know what? I'm here to defend them. I'm a huge Pitch Perfect fan. I'm not here
And
to
we
defend
had
this
we had a
particular
friend
group.
who was in a acapella group in
She
college.
started one, in fact.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and they're
shout
very
out to
good.
this friend and her awesome acapella group, which has it's still going.
Oh, is this really?
Yeah, well, anyway, Barney is just disgusted by this whole lame party, and he starts drinking straight from a bottle. And we go to, I think this is our first commercial break. So we're at McLaren's, and Marshall is telling Lily all these pirate jokes. What be a pirate's favorite kind of sweater? Argyle. And what be a pirate's favorite restaurant? Arby's. And Marshall says it's actually Long John Silver's. These two are adorable.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, yeah, I know it's played up a little bit, the coupliness in this episode, but this kind of stuff, what they're doing right now is
And they're still
very
within
endearing.
2 months of getting engaged too, so this is like maybe a extra honeymoon period.
True. They're gonna be a little more lovey-dovey. So Mike is trying to hold Robin's hand while eating, and Robin kind of says like, "Hey, I need my hand." But but then he like awkwardly goes to reach across her and grab the other hand. So
Yeah, that they didn't understand.
this is the start of some mixed feelings I have about both Mike and Robin, and how well, I'll come back to that, but kind of tracking how Mike and Robin are reacting across the table from this couple that's clearly been together for a while and has their own
Mm,
natural mode of being together. Which obviously the whole point of the episode is, this is not a mode that Robin and Mike are able to be in. Lily says that they're really cute, and Mike says like, "Oh yeah, we're at the point where we're starting to finish each other's sandwiches." Is that the first thing that popped in your mind?
yeah.
He just kind of pauses, and Robin's really into eating her cheeseburger, and she's like, "Oh man, this is so good." And then Mike jumps in and says, "Good."
We could see this as so Ted isn't in the scene, right? So he's telling his kids this. He had to hear it from probably Robin. Maybe Robin played up how clingy Mike was being.
Yeah, well, then you kind of have a double layer of unreliable narrators.
Yeah. So I listened to the official Rewatch podcast from a couple episodes ago, and they mentioned they were starting to realize they could use a narrator structure to kind of play with the
Mhm.
reality of the show. And so yeah, I think they were doing more things that are maybe a little bit crazier, but like you could kind of see it through layers of retelling the story and be like,
I don't think this is intended to be that,
maybe not,
because I
maybe
think
not.
it's realistic enough. But that's something I'm going to be a little more mindful of, and I think I will have in the back of my mind when I do issue a few
Hmm,
minor critiques directed at
okay,
Mike in a minute.
okay.
So anyway, Marshall and Lily, they start to share one another's food, and they're feeding each other. And Mike tries to feed Robin some chicken. Robin just declines, and he keeps insisting. And finally, she's like, "Dude, I'm in the zone." And Lily feels so awkward that she just grabs Mike's fork and just eats the chicken off of it. Yeah, maybe I should break these things down one by one. I don't know that I would want somebody holding my hand while eating, and I am
Yeah.
not someone who wants to be fed, and I'm not someone who wants to feed another person. That's not me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, maybe there's, like, a random playful moment, but not, like, as a rule. I can see that.
Yeah. It's I guess based on your personal preferences, and it's
Mm,
also based on what feels natural for the particular relationship. If Lily was with somebody else, she might not do that.
yeah.
So, we're back on the roof. The group ends its awkward song, and Barney is hitting on a Kahula girl and asks, "Well, what you need to do to get laid around here?" And she is not into it.
Naturally.
Ted is trying to defend the party, and Barney's like, "Well, do you even know anybody here?" And probably not. If it's as we've I guess put together in our head canon, this is a bunch of neighbors that went to Yale, and he just kind of got invited up to a building party. His wife, Ted's like, "Yeah, there's ninja, back of horse, front of horse." Barney says he's leaving, but notes that the Victoria's Secret party is on a yacht and the barnacle is going to be sticking to that yacht. Asks Lily, oh, sorry. So now we're in the bathroom, and Robin asks Lily if she likes Mike. And Lily turns it completely back around on her and says, "Do you like Mike?" And Lily starts giving some examples, which we saw, of how Robin is not acting like a couple. Essentially, Lily tells Robin she's got to meet, Mike likes her, but she has got to meet him halfway or she's going to lose him. And she suggests, hey, it's Halloween. Try putting on the girlfriend costume for a night. And she suggests, why don't you start by sharing dessert? So I guess this is probably a good opportunity to kind of talk about maybe what's happening on the other side of the table. Based on how we're being shown this story, because to your point, this is coming by way of future Ted, by way of Robin's recount of the experience. Yes, I think Mike might be coming on a little clingy, but I think that's probably I think Mike, any clinginess that we're seeing from Mike is probably coming as a reaction to seeing what's happening across the table between Lily and Marshall, which isn't really a fair comparison. And I think he's putting a little too much pressure on himself in the relationship because Lily and
I just wanna say both yeah, both that and just probably the cold feelings you get from Robin, so he's kinda overcompensating maybe. Yeah, go ahead,
for
sorry.
sure, for sure. So Lily and Marshall, they've been together for a while. They have an established dynamic. They've got their inside jokes. They know each other's likes, dislikes, comfort zones. That's all
Mm,
been established for several years. Mike and Robin are only a couple weeks into this. So maybe the idea of going out on a double date with a couple that's so far ahead of you, if that's how you want to put it.
mm,
I don't think that was a bad idea, but maybe for someone who's already feeling insecure based on that vibe he's getting from Robin, I can see how Mike is having this response. But now, interestingly, we're going to see Robin try to emulate what she thinks you're supposed to do in a relationship. And that I don't think is fair either. I don't think Lily's in the
mm.
wrong here, but now I worry that Lily's put a little pressure on Robin to try to fit into a role that doesn't work for her. Yes, I think Robin at the end of the day, I do think she wants to be an I more than a we, at least with respect to this particular partner. But I don't think you have to feed each other in order to be a good couple. What do you think?
Well, I don't know if she was trying to say Robin needs to feed, Mike, but I think just choosing something as a team and working together, like, seeing it as a shared experience, a shared endeavor, I think is maybe I think in any relationship probably you need to adjust a little bit from I am just me to this is something we are sharing together, and Robin's having trouble opening up to that for whatever reason. I think Lily's right that she needs to try to open up to that a little bit, um,
Hmm.
to have a chance for a relationship to work.
Hmm. But maybe not to the extent that she sees Marshall and Lily being open with
Oh,
one
yeah,
another.
yeah, definitely not. Yeah.
Because those two, I love them, but they're almost a little codependent at times. And
Mm,
of course, we'll kind of see how that plays out throughout the series. But I think a degree of independence can be healthy in a relationship. And sometimes in TV
sure.
couples, the
Yeah.
ones that we're supposed to think are really positive, like Jim and Pam, I don't think that they're the best couple. Even though I
In
love
The
them,
Office.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think Robin needs to listen to her inner voice about what works for her. And right now she's maybe taking Lily's advice a little too much to heart.
Well, I think Robin just clearly just doesn't like Mike, really. And so
Not
it's,
enough,
unclear. Yeah, I mean, well,
which is okay.
I guess we'll see in the moment. She seems to enjoy sleeping with him, but does she like him as a person? And that's maybe unclear, for at least from what we see in the episode.
Yeah.
Like, their personalities just don't seem to mesh at all in terms of, like, they're not really
Hmm.
flirting. She's trying to, like, be off on her own, like, have a kind of wall up in terms of interacting with him. Uh, I think, like, if she does want to try, like, open it up a little bit, like, but maybe it's because she's not really into him that she doesn't want to as well.
Yeah. I mean, she definitely has kind of a closed off personality, and it's good to have some encouragement to step outside of that. But yeah, maybe she's just not that into Mike as much as maybe we see her into other people later. Yeah, but let's see how this goes. Before the scene ends, Robin's like, "Oh yeah, I can try to do that. I can try to be flexible and more open, and just you start by sharing dessert, but he better want the brownie sundae." So this is not off to a good start.
Nope.
This experiment. So after the commercial break, Barney has returned to the party, but this time he is dressed as a devil
With a mask?
with a mask. And it's very obviously him. And he explains to Ted that he always packs an extra Halloween costume in case he strikes out with the hottest girl at the party. Ted has to pee, but he will not leave because apparently there was a line for the bathroom and he doesn't want to miss the slutty pumpkin. What line? Wouldn't he just go down to his
Yeah.
apartment?
I actually didn't catch the thing about the line. Yeah, that's actually really weird. Unless he also was combining it with, like, he doesn't wanna leave the party, and then because he's down in his apartment, he doesn't see the Slay Pumpkin. But even at the same time, like, is she gonna show up for, like, 5 minutes and then leave? Like,
Well, exactly. He's being unreasonable.
yeah.
But it sets up a pretty funny joke
Mm.
where Barney says, "Well, just pee off the roof." And then, so Barney's standing behind one shoulder, and then this guy dressed as an angel comes and stands behind Ted's other shoulder and says, "Oh, I wouldn't do that. There's people down there." Barney and then the angel go back and forth. Classic, like angel devil on the either shoulder trope. But then finally, they just kind of break it, and the angel says, "Whatever. Do you guys have some weed?" I noticed in the first few episodes, I feel like they've explicitly mentioned weed a few times, but later, I don't think this is a big spoiler. We're going to see. I don't know maybe if standards and practices started objecting to throwing around the term weed or whatever, but they start referring to marijuana as eating a sandwich.
I wonder, did they ever refer to weed as something they were doing? And then they only
Maybe
refer to it as the euphemism when it was something that,
other
like, Ted
people.
and his friends were doing.
So maybe like the fact that it wasn't like the core five, like if they wouldn't be like, no, no, I feel like we have seen this. I don't know. I don't remember. I feel like in a recent episode, we heard a reference to one of the core members of the group smoking weed or something. But I don't know. I'll keep an eye on that. Back in McLaren's, Robin is taking a photo of Lily and Marshall, and they're trying to stage it where like Lily's up on the bar behind Marshall, and they're trying to like make it so that it looks like
Uh,
Lily dressed as a parrot is perched on Marshall as a pirate, his shoulder. And so
that was
then
fun.
they take the damn picture, as Lily says, and
Take the
they
damn
go sit.
picture, rah!
Yeah, she keeps talking in a parrot voice throughout the episode. So they go and sit back down at the booth, and Robin's really pumped about her dessert, but then she pauses and says, but I would just love to share this one very small one scoop sundae with you, Mike. And clearly she does not want to do this. I feel you, girl. One time on a date, a guy asked if I wanted to share ice cream with him. And I think my exact words were, go to hell. I have to
Was this
really.
ice cream at a restaurant or ice cream at an ice cream
We went to an
place?
ice cream place and I told him, like, I want my
Okay,
own
absolutely not.
ice cream. Like, you got to back all the way off.
Yeah, I think at a restaurant, sharing a dessert makes sense. If you're going to an ice cream place to get ice cream, no, just have your separate stuff, like,
Yeah. I,
yeah, anyway.
I really, really, really have to like somebody to share dessert with them. And even still, sometimes even with, I want my own dessert. But yeah, I think that's a good point. Maybe at a restaurant, it's a little more okay to
But
do
even
something
then,
like that.
get 2 desserts and share both, you know?
Yeah. And then, well, exactly. And then that way you can try a different dessert. So then this might be the first time we hear Lily and Marshall's nicknames for each other, Lily Pad and
Hmm.
Marshmallow.
Yeah, it could be.
Super cutesy. And then Robin, for whatever the reasons, right or wrong, as we've discussed, she's trying. She calls Mike a microwave oven. So now we've got like two people trying to awkwardly push some intimacy into the relationship, and it's just falling flat on its face. It's pretty funny. Back on the roof, Barney approaches the hula girl. Apparently, she does not recognize him. And he asks, "Hey, has every guy used that laid line on you?" And she said, "Oh, you wouldn't believe." And then he offers to make her a drink, and she said, "Oh, you're certainly our charming devil." And he says, "I'm also a horny devil." She just kind of gives him
Pointing to
this
his
look. And
horns.
yeah, yes, he is wearing horns as a devil. And she just gives him this disgusted look and says, "No," and just walks away. But you do see the angel in the background laughing at him. Barney says, "Go to hell." At McLaren's, Mike is telling a story about how him and Robin came upon this little Italian place with good tiramisu. And Robin makes such a point of separating out, the pronouns here. He's using
Uh-huh.
we found this and we like this. And Robin's like, is this is kind of weird. Is liking tiramisu a group activity? She's being bitchy here.
Yeah. Yeah, she
That
is.
was unnecessary. Poor Mike. So I don't know, maybe now she's just feeling tense from trying to overdo it, trying
Mm.
to recreate the coupliness going on between Lily and Marshall, and now she's just getting cranky about I don't know. It's not cool. Marshall and Lily are picking up on this awkward vibe, and they're trying to keep the conversation going. It doesn't work. Robin eventually ends up snatching the dessert back and pointing out that Mike is eating a little bit too much of it. And then Mike's makes kind of a comment. Mike's now starting to get a little passive aggressive too and saying, like,
Uh-huh.
"Oh, looks like we're both hungry." And then Robin, she looks behind Mike and says, "Is that Gary Oldman?" Which I guess in New York is conceivable that you would run into a celebrity like that out of nowhere. But bless his heart, Mike turns around and he's like, "What? Where?" And then Robin grabs the dessert and just starts inhaling it. This is such a childish move.
Yeah.
And she ends up eating it so fast that she ends up giving herself a brain freeze. So back on the roof, Barney's imploring Ted, the slutty pumpkin, she's not coming. And Ted says, "Look, this is not about the odds for me. It's about believing. She represents hope." And Barney just yells like, "Lingerie models on a boat." And then this might be the first time we see Barney perform a magic trick in the show. Am I right?
Yeah, could be. I don't remember another one.
In our pilot episode, I mentioned one of the fun facts about Neil Patrick Harris is he actually is a real life magician. So they try to work that into the show occasionally. So this might be the first time it happens, but he has little like fireballs or something popping out of his sleeves and exits the party. So not the best trick we've seen him or we're going to see him do. So cutting back to McLaren's, Robin asks Mike kind of sheepishly if he wants to drink the melty part, which, oh my God, that's disgusting. Well, we've talked about my aversion to drinking melted ice cream.
Well, the melty part is not good with the ice cream. Like, it's too thick. I mean, if you have, like, a chunk of ice cream and the melty part, sure. But if
Mhm.
it's just the melty part, no, that's a real bad offer Robin gave him.
Well, Mike very justifiably says he's going to take off, and Robin really obliviously follows him
Uh-huh.
and starts flirting with him. The nerve. So then Robin starts saying, "Hey, why don't you follow my breadcrumbs back to the apartment?" And Mike's not having it. He very bluntly is like, "Robin, I don't get the sense that you like being with me, or at least, you like being by yourself more than you like being with me." Robin's protesting and trying to explain, "Okay, I'm set in my ways. That doesn't mean this isn't going to work." And he says, "Well, actually, it's exactly what that means." And Robin says, "Are we breaking up?" And then Mike says, "No, I'm breaking up with you." Which was perfect. Good on you, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, it was mean, but Robin kinda deserved it. Like, she was being annoying to him the whole night.
Yeah, as much as earlier I was encouraging Robin to listen to her inner voice, to not feel like, well, really for both of them, not to feel like they have to be this other couple that they're just not or they're just not yet. She did not need to react the way she did. That it was childish, it was insensitive to his feelings. Robin's
Insecure,
better than
maybe.
this. Insecure. It's yeah, it was almost coming from a place of panic, like, God forbid he used the word "we," and she just
Uh,
he wasn't asking you to get married. No wonder she had that reaction to Ted saying, "I love you." I'm surprised she didn't
yeah,
get a
even
restraining
saying
order.
"we." Well, goodbye, Mike.
Goodbye, Mike. And, I don't know what you went on to do after this, sir. Not not very much in, the acting world, but we enjoyed you. So we're on the roof, and Ted sees a penguin. Well, a person dressed up in, a big kind of cartoonish penguin costume, and the a cappella group is singing the Peanuts song from Charlie Brown, and
Again, probably a cheap thing to play on TV.
you're probably right. And you get this little flashback, and we're reminded that the slutty pumpkin, she studied penguins, and then you see the penguin. Jesus, you see the penguin pouring themselves a tootsie roll. The root beer and the Kahlua, and Dad wonders, oh my gosh, could this actually be the return of the slutty pumpkin? And we go to commercial break on that cliffhanger. So Ted approaches the penguin and explains, "Hey, look, 4 years ago, I met this woman up on the roof, and is it you?" And the penguin kind of gazes up at him, and Ted says, "Oh my God, it is you." And Barney unmasks himself like a supervillain. So mean. Barney and Robin, my goodness, mean behavior this episode. That was actually below the belt. As misguided as
I
maybe
guess I
Ted's
don't know if he
acting.
was he doing it intentionally? Like, he didn't I don't think he knew this about the penguin. Like, I think he just was happened to be in the costume, and he was
No.
like,
He knew.
"Okay, maybe."
Yeah, because he basically says, like, he came back for him and to well, I think he was trying to make a point to teach Ted a lesson, but
That's true. He could be doing that.
bad on you, Barney. Barney, and then he calls Ted a loser.
I mean, to be honest, what Ted's doing is kind of loser behavior. He
Oh,
should be he
yeah.
should be having hey, see, he should be having first of all, he, like, shouldn't be, like, pinning everything on this one girl he briefly glanced 4 years ago at a party that he never saw again. He could be doing so much more with his Halloween parties. He's not having fun doing this, and he's, like, closing himself off from other experience. Even if it's not Barney's party, Ted needs to get out of his own head here.
He really does. I agree with all that, and, we're seeing this I mean, I think we're gonna talk about this in the next episode, like, he really has a habit of idealizing the woman he meets in an unhealthy way. I still don't agree with Barney's actions, even if at the end of
Oh,
the day,
sure. Yeah.
he's not wrong, but I didn't appreciate what Barney
Mhm.
did. However, luckily, Barney did come back for a secondary reason, and that was to score Hula Girl's number. So Hula Girl then recognizes Barney and demands her number back, but he refuses. And she's like, I mean, I'm not going to go out with you. And then Barney says, well, how will you know it's me? I'm a master of disguise. And she just huffs off.
Which is very funny because, of course, she would recognize him at that point.
I'm not sure. She didn't recognize him after 3 times. So it's like a Clark Kent
Well,
situation,
I mean,
maybe.
he was he had sunglasses in the first one, then he was wearing a mask, then he had a whole suit on, but
Maybe
she did
she
eventually see
has
him pull her full normal face at the end, so
okay, that's true, that's true.
I mean,
Well, anyway,
Barney has a tendency to pick, oblivious, I guess we'll say, dates, but I don't she doesn't seem like she's that oblivious. Like, I think she would
well,
know his
that
game.
explains why we're assuming he never goes on a date with her. Yeah, like, I don't wanna I guess we're gonna see more of this eventually. We haven't really seen a lot of the women that Barney goes out with, and they are
That's true. We haven't yet.
I think we're gonna be told that a lot of them are bimbos. I don't wanna come down on them hard, but I guess we'll have
True.
to see.
Yeah.
Maybe he is going for a type. Well, I think he's pretty open about that, actually. I don't think he's looking for somebody smart enough to call him on his nonsense.
We'll see if that changes.
We will. Ted is still stubbornly refusing to go. Barney flippers him off and finally leaves. Barney, you get on that yacht. I'm annoyed with both of them right now.
Should
Set the
be.
clearance. Robin's kind of debriefing with Lily and Marshall about what happened, and she, I think, succinctly, or not succinctly, but she kind of accurately puts, he wanted to be a we, and I wanted to be an I. And then she says, "Guys are such chicks." We've probably talked about this a little bit. I'm pretty sure we have, where it's like a sign of, femininity to be more emotionally invested in a relationship. And stereotypically, it's the girls who are supposed to want to fall in love and be romantic, and the guys are supposed to be maybe a little more emotionally closed off. So,
Mhm,
Robin in this way, I guess, is being coded as a little more masculine with respect to that stereotype.
mhm,
But yeah, it's not nice because she's saying, "Oh, okay, you're basically not enough of a guy if you
mm,
want to have emotional intimacy," and then she also kind of appropriates this word of chicks, which is demeaning to women, used the way that she is. So
mhm,
it's,
yeah.
oh, Robin, not coming across well this episode. I don't know if you got anything to add
Oh,
about
no,
that one.
I think you said everything needs to be said there.
Well, the good news, however, is that Marshall and Lily have won the costume contest. You know, I got a pause here. I'm kind of glancing around at the bar. I think they deserved it. They had a really great couple's costume. And they are announced as the winners, as Lily is a parrot and Marshall's a gay pirate. Marshall, I was a little surprised.
Yeah.
I think typically we've seen Marshall pretty secure in his masculinity, and I think later we even see he isn't afraid to be maybe mistaken as gay. Here, he has a full out no homo kind of moment. He
Yeah.
really, really reacts and makes a point like, I have sex with my parrot all the time. Okay, calm down, Marshall.
I think to be fair, I mean, well, not to be, but, like, that setting up the "I have sex with my parrot" is a little funny, but it was, bad the way to get there.
Yeah. It was surprising coming from Marshall.
This aged poorly.
I guess to like, thinking back about what 2005 was like, that is what people were doing for worse. So I guess it's kind of accurate to how many men behaved at the time. So, yeah, I guess hopefully we're all better now than doing that. Um,
Yeah. Because at the time, gay was much more of I think, a common insult. Like, oh, that's so gay. Like, I don't think I've heard that in a long time.
and definitely like guys being afraid to
Hmm.
be seen as gay, which is of course like why is Marshall even worried about this? He's not in high school. He is engaged to be married. Like why does he care?
Yeah, I don't really understand where the insecurity comes from as for being
Mhm.
mistaken to be the people I've confronted about. Typically, the response, if I've asked people who've had a reaction like that, like, why do you even care if someone thinks you're gay? It's, oh, I don't want to get hit on by a guy. You know, S-
Mm,
the welcome to girls' lives every day. First of all, but I mean, okay, like, because God forbid, it's first of all like the ego in assuming that you are going to get hit on.
sure, sure.
I don't know. I really don't understand the anxiety.
Mm.
But anyway, Marshall eventually calms down long enough to have Robin take a picture of him and Lily, and you s- you get a little zoom in on Robin's face, and she's looking a little wistful. You get the sense maybe she does want to be in a couple. So we're in the last scene. We're up on the roof. They're playing a really nice song for this scene. It's called "Inside of Love" by Not a Surf. I
I
don't know
hadn't
how.
heard of them.
I'm pretty sure I'd heard the song before. I'm terrible with song names and artists, but it felt appropriate. The party's ending. People are leaving. Ted's kind of leaned up against the wall, looking cold. And Robin comes in, and she just kind of abruptly starts the conversation, which with I never played any team sports, which we know that that's wrong.
Mhm.
But I'll allow it. We're still, as you said, figuring out the characters. Robin tells Ted that she got dumped, and then she goes on this kind of self-reflective speech where she wonders, why don't I want to be in a relationship as much as other people? Why don't I want that more? Am I wired wrong? Is there something wrong with me? Ted jokes that, well, clearly you have abysmal taste in men because you're not into me. But no, you're wired just fine. But Robin's still concerned. Am I a cold person? Why can't I be Gretel? And Ted says, you just haven't met the right Hansel yet. I thought this was a very compassionate response from Ted, and I think he's right in a lot of ways because I think, especially if you're used to being single, you might be reluctant to make some accommodations, some compromises in your life. You might, if for the right person, I think that you're a lot more likely to make an idiot of yourself, dress up like Gretel, maybe to do some of that coupley stuff that Lily was encouraging Robin to do.
Mhm.
So
Sure.
I liked how Ted handled it.
Yeah, yeah, and they're acknowledging that there was something with between them, but, like, Ted's, like, acting mostly fine, like a friend here.
Yeah.
Like, he's not jealous of Robin here. He's not saying, "Well, why aren't you into me?" He's acknowledging what Robin wants and that
Mhm.
she wants someone else, and he's there for her.
Yeah, you're right. I'm happy to see that from Ted. Maybe in the beginning he wasn't respecting his own or Robin's feelings as much as I wanted, but as the season's playing out, it seems like he's
Mm.
being a good friend, and
Yeah,
that is what she
it
wanted.
is.
Well, Robin asks Ted, like, "How do you do it? How do you just sit out here all night in the cold waiting for your slutty pumpkin?" And he makes a joke that he's drunk, but then he
And and
mhm.
find out it's 2:45 AM.
Oh, Jesus. Even in my late 20s, I guess he's like 28 at this point, right? I would not be waiting for anybody at
Mm.
2:45 in the morning. Ted says, "I know the odds are against me, but this is as good a place as any to wait." And so Robin sits down on the ground next to Ted and they get under a blanket together and they wait together. And the song swells up again. And that's the end of the episode.
Nice scene to end on.
Yeah, I think I covered pretty much everything I want to talk about. How about you?
Yeah, I didn't have anything else in for this episode.
I didn't even really have a best background actor or an aughts or anything like that.
Ooh, yeah, I mean, I think we have to say that Chad is the "That's So Us." Like, the
Yeah.
hanging Chad, the quintessential political totem of the 2000s. Yeah, hands down, that's it.
Definitely. Well, how would you rate this episode, Nick?
I gave it 4 out of 5 Tootsie Rolls.
You use Tootsie Rolls too.
I think we can use the same one. I don't think we have to do different ones if we don't want
No,
to.
no, no, no. I got to think of something else. I'm gonna give it 4 out of 5. I'll give it 4 out of 5 Kit Kats.
Why do you give it that rating?
I thought it was funny. I enjoyed it. Like all the episodes we watched so far, there've been some frustrations with the way some of the characters have behaved, but all in all, I guess I just laughed a lot. It
Hmm.
was an entertaining episode. That's really all it was.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty packed with jokes. When it did, veer into not aging well, it was like only a couple brief moments.
Mhm.
You got to see the characters having fun. There was this quintessential How I Met Your Mother moment at the end where they were talking about their feelings and understanding each other and having a heart to heart, which I think
Mhm.
really characterizes a good How I Met Your Mother episode.
Yeah. Well, do you want to move on to your episode?
Episode 7, Matchmaker. It aired November 7th, 2005. The guest stars in this episode are Cameron Manheim. So this is matchmaker Ellen Pierce. So she's had a long and productive career in Hollywood. Uh,
She looked familiar.
yeah, she's in a bunch of like Law and Order. She was in Kobe Smulders' show. She had a show called Stumptown for a couple seasons.
Hmm.
I saw one episode that wasn't my thing. She was also in several episodes of a show called The Magicians. Have you seen that, Mickey?
I watched most of the first season, but for some reason I couldn't get into it. I don't remember her being in that.
I think it was like a couple episodes of like a
Wow.
later season. She's also in Person of Interest, actually one of my favorite shows.
Oh.
She was she was kind of the head of the government agency running this AI machine that could see everything. Funny story: the lead actor in that, Jim Caviezel, is the wackiest person ever. He's a QAnon nutter. He was Jesus in Passion of the Christ, and he got hit by lightning twice during that production.
Wait, he actually got hit by lightning while performing
He
as
actually
Jesus?
got hit by lightning twice playing Jesus in Passion of the Christ.
How?
God must hate him.
Did they schedule all the performances under a tree during thunderstorms?
That I don't know, but there is a great episode of a podcast called QAnon Anonymous. They're just two guys who are tracking this whole thing when it was big. And there's an episode where they just did a deep dive into his career and his involvement in the conspiracy theory stuff. So I highly recommend checking it out. He's Even though he's a deeply weird person and he's not a great actor, I love the show partly because his counterpart is Michael Emerson, Benjamin from Lost, who is great.
Oh.
And there's also Amy Acker is in it from Angel.
Oh, yeah, I like her. Wait, what's the
um,
name of the QAnon guy?
Jim Caviezel.
I gotta pull him up.
Yeah, and there's a dog in the show. It's actually a pretty fun show. The first season is and I'm getting too a little too long in this. The first season's like a dark noir police procedural, kind of a wire-ish, and then it gets more into sci-fi where you get these AIs that are becoming sentient and battling. And I highly recommend it. The person who did it, Jonathan Nolan, he went on to do Westworld, and then a later season of Westworld is kind of a spiritual successor to Person of Interest.
Okay.
Anyway, and finally, she was in The Practice, which I haven't seen, but I know is a pretty big show. And then the other is Beth Black, Dr. Sarah O'Brien. She's had many guest roles, but nothing that stood out to me. So I will go right into the episode. So in this episode, Lily and Marshall discover a new species, while Ted tries out a matchmaker who nearly drives him to hopelessness, but in the end, he realizes the hope remains. So we start out on the couch with the kids. The narrator says, "Kids, before I met your mother, when I was still out there searching, I learned something valuable, that love is not science." And then the kids get up to go watch TV and walk off screen. But the narrator continues, "You see, sometimes in life," and they slowly walk back in and sit down, "you just have to accept that certain things in life can't be explained, and that's kind of scary." And the kids look annoyed and resigned, and here we go into the story of this, the seventh hour of storytelling for these kids. Or I guess half hour, sorry for a half hour. We go to McLaren's. Ted, Barney, and Robin are at a small table, not the booth, and Marshall and Lily come rushing in. Lily says she's still shaking and she gulps Barney's drink. Barney kindly lets her know that he has a cold. Marshall and Lily had just seen something in their apartment. So then we cut to the apartment to see what exactly happened. And Marshall and Lily are coming into their dark apartment just making out. Lily awkwardly turns the light on by the couch, and as she looks over the shoulder as they're making out, she sees something in the corner, and then the camera switches perspective to on the floor, as if we're seeing the point of view of some creature. Lily shrieked, and they both run out the door. Back in McLaren's in the present, Marshall says it was the craziest, meanest mouse he's ever seen, but Lily thinks it was a cockroach. They can't agree. They're arguing. Barney mocks Marshall for running away from a cockroach. Marshall corrects him, says that was a mouse, and Barney sarcastically says, "Oh yeah, sorry, my bad. You're a man."
Men can be scared of mice too, Barney.
Yes, they can. Although I do think that was a pretty funny joke, because as if there's a difference between a mouse and a cockroach in terms of being scared, which I don't think there should be. I have had a cockroach in my apartment, and I've dealt with it. Okay, no mice though. I can't say I've had that experience.
I found a little mouse in our attic over the weekend when I was doing some spring
Yeah.
cleaning, and he got stuck and expired on one of the little sticky traps I have laid out for
Oh.
bugs, and I felt so bad
Mm,
for him. But I did have pest control come out today.
yeah.
But I feel like a monster. I
Aw.
think mice are cute.
They are cute. They just shouldn't be in our houses.
No.
I will say at least cockroaches don't move as fast as you're careful, I think. Whereas, yeah, mice are probably harder to catch, which is probably why there are mouse traps.
Probably.
And we keep trying to invent better ones, I guess. Anyway, so Robin notices that her story is going to be playing on the news, and she tells Carl to turn it up and tells Ted to pay attention. We see Robin interviewing New York's premier matchmaker, Ellen at Love Solutions, boasting a 100% success rate. Ellen claims she can crunch the numbers, and presto manifesto, you have a soulmate. Ellen gestures to a wall of photos of couples for proof, then whispers that those are just the attractive ones, and she has more posts than bathroom. I don't know why you're admitting that on the news, but Anyway, an attractive woman walks in at the end of the broadcast to see Ellen, and Barney confirms with Robin that was a client, and Barney decides immediately that he and Ted have to sign up. Ted says no because going to a matchmaker is like giving up, the man version of getting a cat, he says. Marshall and Lily continue their argument of what they saw. Marshall jokingly suggests that a cockroach could have been wearing a skin of a mouse, and they laugh, and a skin of a mouse they had just killed. And then they both take it seriously and freak out. And then Lily downs Barney's drink again. I don't know why Lily keeps doing this, but it's a
The
thing now.
alcohol will kill the germs.
Now in the apartment, Ted is on the couch and he hears something squeaking. He looks around a moment concerned, decides it's nothing, and then Barney slams through the door, startling Ted into tossing his interior design magazine. Barney is in a panic. He explains in great detail that his boat is sinking and he needs Ted to come with him, and Ted just jumps and runs after him. And then we're cut to Love Solutions, and then Ted is saying, "So your boat was sinking, huh? That's a good one." I don't know at what point Ted realized on the journey over to Love Solutions that he wasn't going to a boat, and like, hey, wait a second, this seems weird. But anyway, he got in there, and they're filling out their forms. And then Barney starts playing up this hopeless romantic angle with Ellen. Is there any way I can let it known that I love cuddling? Ellen awes. I just want someone who is not afraid to hold me at night when the tears come. And then Ellen goes cold and says, "Get out." She knows this act. She threatens to stomp the crap out of Barney if he doesn't leave.
When do you think Ellen realized?
I think she was kind of onto him and then was giving him some rope. And then,
All right.
yeah. So Barney doesn't believe her, and then she moves to get up and he just runs out. He's kind of a scary cat. He's not really that brave. So Ellen tells Ted to stay and calls Ted cute, says he has a good career, and didn't use an alias like Barney's Jack Package. And then we see Barney through the translucent glass door. He says, "It's pronounced package." She yells at him and he runs away. That was a funny bit. I like that. Ellen says Ted just needs to give her 3 days and she'll find him the woman he'll marry. Ted politely refuses, says he doesn't need an algorithm. Then Ellen pulls out a calculator to estimate how many women are actually good matches in the city. So this is kind of a version of Fermi's paradox and the Drake equation. Do you know anything about these, Miki?
No, what is that?
So the Fermi's paradox is, if there are so many stars and planets out there, why haven't we met any aliens?
Yes, I have heard of this. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so the Drake equation is like putting together all these factors that could estimate how many alien civilizations there might be out there that we could potentially hear from. And you start with how many stars there are, how many planets there are, how many planets that support life, how many life forming planets that can lead to a civilization, how many civilizations die out before they get to like radio transmissions. So you're like winnowing down to like a relatively small number, depending on what parameters you set. So that's basically what Ellen is doing here. She starts with 9 million women in the city. She says within like plus minus 5 years of you, that's like 482,000. 48% of them are already in relationships. Then eliminate like half for intelligence, sense of humor, and compatibility. Then you have to get rid of the ex-girlfriends, relatives, and don't forget those lesbians. And you get 8 women. Yeah, so I mean, if you really do think about like, who is going to be my match, there's probably a relatively small number of people, and you have to kind of figure out how to meet them. It's probably
I bet
bigger
there's
than
more
8.
than 8.
It's probably bigger than 8, yeah. And also, there's always like flux, like populations are moving, and so there's definitely always like more people around to meet. So it's not as low
Yeah,
as definitely
certainly in
she's
New
making it
York.
seem because she's trying to sell her service,
Yeah.
obviously. But Ted's just dumbfounded. He's eating this up. He's like, oh crap, I need help. And then Ted asks if she can take credit cards. We go back to McLaren's, and Lily and Marshall are joining Robin and Barney in the booth. Lily takes Barney's drink again and says they got a better look at the creature. Marshall, haunted, says it's bigger. It's been feeding. Um, and so then we cut to earlier at the apartment. Lily and Marshall are on the couch watching TV, and Marshall spots this time. The camera switches to the viewpoint of the creature. It's wiggling back and forth. They reach behind them to grab a can of Raid and a giant phone book. Then they carefully go over, and then Lily sprays it, and then Marshall whacks with the phone book. And they embrace, and Marshall's comforting Lily, thinking it's over. But then we see the phone book crawling across the floor towards the kitchen with a little bump underneath it, and they leave the apartment again. And then McLaren's literally saying has 6 legs and a hard exoskeleton. And then Marshall's saying has gray brown tufts of fur and a tail. And they both say it's a cockamouse. Robin and Barney don't buy it. Ted comes in and runs into Marshall, who's going to the bar, asks him about leaving the apartment door open, and that Marshall deadpans, "There was no time." Uh, being very dramatic. Ted sits down and tells Robin it's been over 5 days and he hasn't heard anything from the matchmaker, and she had told him that she would have a match for him in 3 days. Lily says Ted shouldn't Ted out about it, and then it takes him a moment to catch on, and turns out they've been using Ted's name to mean overthinking, leading to disastrous consequences, which is totally accurate based on what we've seen from him so
Mhm.
far. And then Ted says he'd just give it a few more days. But we see 20 minutes later at Love Solutions, Ted walks into Ellen's office. Ellen is trying to cover, says the computer is still crunching the numbers. Eventually, she comes out with it, though. Ted, there are absolutely no women out there for you. I was like, whoa, that wasn't so hard. We have a commercial break, and then when we come back, she says there should be some out there, but she doesn't know where they are. Ellen's upset because it hurts her 100% success rate. She says she could maybe find someone for Ted if he was gay. He says no. Or a little bi, maybe? No. So Ted asks if she's just messing with him. So she shows him the computer and says he must have a compatibility rating of 7 or higher. And there's a 9.6, but she's already been matched 6 months ago to an 8.5. Ellen has a lunch, though. She promises Ted she'll find someone, shows him the door. She says there are new women turning 18 every day, which to his credit, Ted frowns at. Though it probably was better to say that there are actually the people moving into the city all the time, and so there are always new people around. But yeah,
Yeah, I don't know why that was the hope she was clinging on to, but okay, Ellen.
given the conversation about the fixation in the 90s, 2000s about women turning 18, or well, girls turning 18 and becoming legal, which is a whole
Was that a
cottage industry.
fixation in the early
Yeah, if you go back
aughts?
in like popular culture, and like entertainment magazines, like what's her name?
Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen?
Emma Watson?
Yeah, Emma Watson.
Hermione, right?
Hermione.
Yeah, there was like countdowns to when she turns 18, or the Olsen twins
No.
and things like that.
Ew, creepy.
Yeah, and that's definitely tamed a lot, but yeah, going back and realizing just how much of that was in the culture is actually kind of shocking.
Hmm.
So this might be like a little tail end of that, perhaps. So they both walk out, but then Ted sneaks back in to print out the 9.6 profile. So he's about to Ted this up.
Ugh.
All
Yeah.
right. So in McLaren's, though, it'll be a while before we get to Ted again. Lily and Marshall are giving a seminar to random bar patrons about the Cockamace, which Marshall hilariously draws and labels as Figure 1 on a chalkboard. It's probably a chalkboard from Lily's kindergarten, I think, is what they're trying to
Oh,
make
I
it out
thought
to be.
maybe you know how, like, sometimes bars and restaurants will have chalkboards with a fancy chalk where you can write the day's specials?
Oh, do you have it up?
I do,
Are you seeing it right now? Does it look
yeah,
like
I
a?
I thought that's what that was.
Okay, maybe it's not. Okay, yeah, you're probably right on that. Yeah, so Robin's mocking it though, and Marshall's chiding for making it sound ridiculous. Ted and Barney though are at the booth reviewing Sarah's profile. Oh yeah, Ted's in the scene. I forgot. Ted is reaching deep to manufacture these connections, and Barney's mocking Ted by saying Ted sounds like her perfect woman.
This aged poorly.
All right, I don't think we have to belabor it. But so back to Marshall. He says the cockamouch is hermaphroditic. Why? Robin keeps mocking them, saying we don't know what they've been smoking. I'm totally team Robin here, but if exaggerated in their minds, like the Loch Ness monster. And then Lily looks very offended by this, and Marshall defends Nessie's existence. And then Marshall continues to sit down. Robin goes over to join Ted and Barney at the booth. And Ted is continuing, she's a dermatologist. I have skin. Barney says, you want to be her boyfriend? She already has a boyfriend. It's uncanny. To his credit, Barney is being very like grounding for Ted here. Like Barney has hit on married women, but he's actually like, pulling Ted down to earth and saying this is a bad idea.
Boy,
Um,
what does that tell you?
it's a very bad idea. So Ted says it can't hurt to check her out. And if she thinks she can do 11.45% better, who am I to deny her that? Freeze frame, narrator says proudly, that's right. I did the math.
Is the math right?
Ugh.
I won't make you
I
do the math.
I don't care. Yeah, it's probably right. That'd be a
Say
weird thing
yes and I'll
to
believe you
mess up.
because you're more of a math person than me.
I can't say yes because someone might write in and say I'm wrong. So we'll just say it seems right.
Oh, someone will lose their mind. It's
I
11.47%, you racist.
I should have checked. That's my bad. Anyway, if you go to the dermatologist's office, Ted apparently made an appointment at her office. He's kind of starting out being his like kind of charming, awkward self at first. He says he wants them all checked out, but he's kind of a cautious guy. She says she's exactly like that, and then he clocks that. Like I think that maybe like primes him to be like a little extra Ted here, because she says like she's just exactly the same. And then he's starting to Ted it up. He softly sings "Summer Breeze," which was on her profile as her favorite song, and then she joins in on it. He mentions brunch, which she says she loves. She says she likes the way he thinks because he doesn't like phonies either, which is also on her profile. So he goes in to ask her to dinner that Saturday before his shirt off when it would be more weird. But she's getting married on Saturday, which, only 6 months together? That's a little fast, don't you think? But, you know, I know some
To
people.
be fair, it's not a Ted's business, but yeah.
Yeah, it's totally unrelated to Ted being right or not. So how long have they been engaged and then getting married? That's such a short time.
And
But
planned a wedding.
I guess Alan is so great that, you know, they were perfect matches. Anyway, so Ted tries to recover with Friday night, and we go to commercial. Ted congratulates her and apologizes. He asks if he's coming off crazy, and she says only a little. Uh, he goes for the million to one shot though, and asks if she changes her mind about getting married, she would she give him her call. And she says, sure, but it's unlikely because she looks damn good in that dress. She's being a good sport about this, even though it's crazy. We're not to the full Ted up here though yet.
Yeah, I guess I'll reserve my complaints until then, but boy, she should win a trophy. She has been so cool about this whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're in the apartment. Lily and Marshall are constructing an elaborate trap. Robin asks if the Roadrunner is going to fall for it. Marshall lists off all the awesome mysteries of the universe, the Bermuda Triangle, ghosts, Bigfoot, and Robin retorts, bad maps, creaky houses, hillbilly in a gorilla suit. And I need to talk about my favorite, I think, real theory that Bigfoot is actually bears. And the reason I say that, so they're bears after they come out of hibernation in the spring are really emaciated because they've used up all their fat stores. And bears can also get up on their hind legs to do whatever they want to do. So you can have these really skinny emaciated bears standing up on their two back legs. It would look, and I've seen pictures of this. It actually looks a lot like it could be an ape of some kind in a distance in a forest, and they've always been seen in forests, right?
Mhm.
And I think even there was an incident where someone claimed they had shot a Bigfoot and they had like it in their freezer, and when they did the DNA test, it was bear. I'm willing to say it's like 95% certainty that Bigfoot are just bears. I don't know.
When
What do
we
you
get
think?
social media going, you should post a picture of a Bigfoot bear because I'd really like to see that actually. That would make so much sense.
I will at least send you. Well, we will probably have this by the time anyone outside of us is hearing this. But I will also send you some photos after we get off this.
I would love that. Well, knowing you as well as I do, I'm assuming you do not believe in the Bermuda Triangle or ghosts either.
No, yeah. I mean, even that if that explanation is like hard to find, I think there always is.
Mhm.
There always seems to be a good explanation. And I think it's telling that we have very few paranormal sightings, given that everybody has a camera now. Um, like it's something that happens in the mind of the beholder, where like someone sees something and thinks something, and it becomes real in their mind.
Mhm.
There's actually a really good story, by the way, about there's a famous New Hampshire UFO story where people driving through the White Mountains thought they were abducted or something. But then I found a post that really went into detail about deconstructing exactly what likely happened, because they were seeing a big light in the sky, and it seemed like it was moving across the stars, but it was like always like bright, and like they could see people in it. And so so this route through the White Mountains in New Hampshire, it snakes around, and apparently there was a on top of one of the mountains there was a lodge and a bright light on a tower that was like an aircraft warning light, so like
Mhm.
so aircraft wouldn't hit it. And so someone tried to recreate this where they would drive through, and they would watch as the road winded through. You could see the light move around, because this is back in the 40s, I think.
Mhm.
um, so pitch black, in the mountains. The only light you see is that, and it's like stars, but otherwise. And apparently, they were both also very sleep deprived before starting this trip, and so that also does crazy things to your perception. And they mentioned they could see people in it, but as you get close to the mountain, you can actually see the lodge where people are actually be in. So it's a really fascinating comparison of like story as written down in like famous books, and what it actually would look like to a person going through, and it seems like it's just that light.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Interesting.
anyway, I think there's a lot of it's I think it's maybe it's not fascinating in terms of like Marshall's thinks the world is mysterious and awesome because there are these things you can't explain. For me, as a the scientist, I think it is mysterious and awesome that you can explain these things, and the way our minds work can do these weird things. I just find that part fascinating.
Yeah, like, I don't remember what the name for it is, but there's some type of phenomenon where humans, our minds are actually programmed to see faces in
Yeah.
non-human objects, 'cause that's just how we're wired. So, maybe that's why people keep finding Jesus in slices of toast.
Oh yeah, and there's the like primed to like sensing a predator in the dark of the jungle, and so you're keyed to those kinds of disturbances, and like if you see two little dots of light, you think, oh, those are eyes, right? That kind of thing.
Mhm.
Um, oh, and the story I'm talking about, it's Betty and Barney Hill. If anyone wants to look that up.
Barney!
Yeah, yeah, Barney. And yeah, it's definitely something I would link in whatever social media we have.
Yeah,
Can
that's a good
find the
idea.
post again. Anyway, fascinating stuff, I believe. But Marshall, we follow this up with he thinks, well, you have to give me aliens. There's alien crap all over the place, like Stonehenge. Robin doesn't buy it. He says, "You just poke the bear." And with a little crazy eye, he walks into his bedroom. Ted and Barney come in and through the open door, and Ted is relating his experience with Sarah, and she's engaged. Lily says sorry. Then Ted shares that he asked her out anyway, just casually, and Lily is like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! Let's not skip past this." And she asks, "All right, raise your hand if you hit an engaged woman today." And both Ted and Barney raise their hands. And Barney says, "Don't hate the player, hate the game." Marshall comes back in with the book, and he starts reading a narrative of Roswell to Robin. Marshall then lets Ted know that he has a message on the answering machine from Dr. O'Brien. Ted runs over and interrupts Marshall, who's trying to get back into the story with big hand gestures, just so he can listen to the message. And now Dr. O'Brien says that Ted should call him right back. So I think from last week you were talking like, would doctors just leave messages with like results on the answering machines, if I recall correctly?
Yeah. So I guess here that
So
gives us a hint of what they would
yeah, so
actually do.
this is what they would do. But although, to be fair, she probably should have specified it was about test results. I think that's more commonly what would be done, but
I mean, what else would she be calling about unless you're
well, she
Ted?
could be calling about changing her mind about getting married. Which is why she's
I'm
calling
assuming
into her
she's a
doctor's
normal
office.
person. He is not a normal
Right.
person,
Yeah, definitely.
as we're about to see.
Um, yep. So, with commercial break, then Lily tells Ted to leave it alone, but he thinks he has to give it a shot. Barney and Robin then go to leave too. They don't really care. They don't want to see the Cockamace. But right then, the trap springs. Marshall has a plan. He wants to bring it to his friend in the Columbia Biology Department. Lily objects because she doesn't want to do tests on it because that's mean. She'd rather beat it to death with a bat. So then we go to the dermatologist's office, and major cringe warning. Ted's gonna completely Ted out here. Ted comes into Sarah's office, and she asks him to take a seat. She says, "Go ahead, Sarah. You can tell me anything." She tells him that he has a basal cell carcinoma. And he says, "Anything else?" And here Ted starts to flip out. And I said, "Come on, Ted, you're already grossly violating her privacy. She's getting married. She isn't responsible for your situation. Chill out."
Also, I'm
But
sorry,
he doesn't listen to
does
me because he can't hear me.
does Ted have cancer? Like, I don't know what
Apparently.
Yeah, well, she built this up like it was a big deal, and he's completely blown past the fact that any other person would have paused and gone
Uh,
back to that bit of information. I kind of want to. I'm going to Google basal cell
I do think
carcinoma.
for the most part, unless it's gone extremely far without being detected, these kinds of
Okay,
cancers can be easily removed and like you're
this is
okay.
Copilot's answer. Is that sufficient for you for our
No,
purposes?
do not use Copilot.
Okay.
I
How about
refuse
Mayo
to
Clinic?
support LLM. Thank you.
Well, that was the first thing that popped up. All right, how about the Mayo Clinic?
Yes.
Basal
Mail
cell
Clinic sounds good.
carcinoma is a type of skin cancer. Ted has skin cancer, you guys. Jeez. How is this? Okay, let me finish reading. Basal cell carcinoma begins in the basal cells, a type of cell within the skin that produces new skin cells as old ones die off. It often appears as a slightly transparent bump on the skin, though it can take other forms. It occurs most often on areas of the skin that are exposed to the sun. Does this ever come up again? Like in
No,
the
it doesn't.
show? Alright, well, okay, so at the end of the day, he has skin cancer.
For I think the vast majority of people, unless it's like melanoma, like usually like in a regular mole or something can be like, caught and like removed and then you're just fine. So it's usually early on. At least until you're like older and then maybe like things are worse.
I just can't get over the fact
Yeah.
I can't get over the fact that Ted has blown past this, the writers are blowing past this.
Yeah, true.
My god, okay,
Ugh.
go on.
So yeah, Ted ends up letting slip that he knows about her from Love Solutions.
Mm.
And he tries to sing Summer Breeze again. He tries to say that she's being impulsive and marrying so quickly, and she comes back at him for doing this. He's and he says, "See, we're both impulsive. We're perfect for each other." Uh, And then she tells him to calm down. She's, "Calm down. You're my only match." And he's starting to get angry, but then he calms down and gets despondent, which I think is good for the situation. There was a computer, and there were 8 fish in a sea full of lesbians. Sarah asks him if he really thinks that no one's out there for him just because the computer says so, and he starts to calm down. Then he said the math made him confused. And Sarah says, love isn't a science. You can't calculate a feeling. When you're in love with someone, an 8.5 equals a perfect 10. Aw, we all learned a lesson here.
God love you, Sarah. You are the coolest person I've met in the show so far. This is the person who should have done Krav Maga on Ted. This is
Yeah, right?
this was so deeply uncomfortable to
Hmm.
watch. I would have called
Oh,
the
yeah.
police. Oh my god.
Yeah, absolutely. I skipped over some of this because I just so cringe just kind of go through it. Forget.
Mhm.
All right.
Oh my
Well,
god.
fortunately, we
I
got
just
through that.
can't.
We're all okay. Ted's not in jail. Um,
Or dead.
so so we're at the Columbia Science Lab. We see displays of butterfly specimens and these random colored test tubes, these like jars of formaldehyde preserved things, and then on the chalkboard they use like very random simple math equations. So like clearly someone who just like some math stuff, and they just put some stuff
So,
up there.
a reminder to listeners, Nick is a scientist, so it's not like what a lab would actually look like.
No, it's not. At best, except for the chalkboard with the weird, very, very simple math, it could be ecologist, like, organismal biology kind of place, like maybe except the test tubes. Just because they're like all the preserved specimens.
I'm looking at it. I mean, for me as a layperson, it works. Science
So
stuff.
Marshall has the pot that was captured in it with a cutting board covering the top, and while his friend gloves up. Marshall's friend said this could be huge for his career. The friend has to be kind of crazy to even believe Marshall about this, but anyway, his friend carefully lifts the board off. He says, "You bastard! I actually got excited about this. It's empty." And this is another one of those lines that I keep hearing every once in a while in my head. I love the line reading of it. And Marshall realized because it's not there, Lily must be in danger. So we cut to the apartment and we're in the perspective of the creature, which is skittering on the floor. Lily sees it from the little weird hallway by the bathroom. What else in that hallway, by the way?
Well, maybe Ted's room because Lily and Marshall on the other side.
Does Ted's room have two doors to it?
Where's Ted's door?
In the living room, because there's the two doors right in the living room there.
Yeah. Well, then yeah, because right behind Lily, it looks like there's a door. So Ted has to have two doors leading into his bedroom. Maybe it's like
Huh.
the room, the Tommy Wiseau. There's like inexplicably a bunch of there's like two front doors.
I don't remember that. That's a good catch. Yeah, anyway, so Robin finally sees it. She says, "Oh my god, it's real." And Lily says, "Oh, is it? Do something." And then Robin here, which is maybe inconsistent with the character we learn Robin as later, but she just throws her martini glass at it. She's kind of being like the stereotypical girl here when there's a I mean, maybe a little bit better than Lily is, but like she's not doing like super brave things here.
Well, it sounds like it's terrifying even to Robin. By the way, my mom
Sure.
has done this with a wasp. She did throw a drink at a wasp, and the wasp was acting drunk after. Like it was staggering around.
Yeah, actually, that makes sense. Interesting, smart move. Oh yeah, Marshall runs in with the gloves at this moment, and then he dives on it. He grabs it. They open the window, and with a lot of screaming, they throw it out. And then they're all looking rather amazed and awed because it's actually flying. Um, and then Marshall starts waxing poetic about how great this creature is, and going on and on until it starts heading back towards him, and they run close to the window. Not completely all the way, just like most of the way, which
Just
I
in
would
time.
be a little scared about. But
Oh my god,
anyway,
the
they
face
mostly close the
acting when
window. It hits
watching
the
this.
window and falls off. I tried to catch exactly what it looked like, but it's too blurry. It kind of looks like there's some like foil or something, and then they look a little shiny, and there's like some sort of fuzzy stuff, and there's like a little tail.
Well, I think that's what how, like, sometimes, like, the lost monster, like, you see just enough of it to be creeped out by it, but, like, if you saw, like, the
Mm.
whole monster, it
Oh,
would kind of
sure.
lose the that's how it is, I think, the Cockamaus is so funny because you just get enough of a suggestion of what this
Mm.
thing is.
Absolutely. So now we're back at Love Solutions. Ted comes in. He says hi to Ellen. She's despondent in her easy chair with a blanket in her dark office. There's papers all over the floor. There's tissues like crumpled like all around.
Oh, yeah.
She's having a bad time. Ted says he wants his money back. She says she's a failure. She's tried tweaking the program. She even stood on the street showing him his photo to people passing by. And I think we have to play TAP here.
This aged poorly.
She throws in a joke about a sex worker in drag who offered to do him for half the price because Ted looks like John Cusack and Say Anything was their favorite movie. Apart from the outmoded transvestite word.
Is that what she says?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and then she kept saying like she, he, like she just kept like doing both pronouns and
Oh, boy.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Apart from
Ellen.
that, the joke was funny, like someone who offering to like give him a discount because he looked cute.
Mhm.
But yeah, that part
They're
of the
like,
joke
"Oh,
was
you can't even, like, fully, attract this type of,
mm,
marginalized person that I can't even take seriously," and
and it's definitely like the butt of the joke because this like, very weird person doesn't even want you, and that's
yeah.
how they're trying to make it across. So that's definitely not cool either. Yeah, they aged poorly. So she pulls out a Haagen-Dazs pint. Ted mocks it for being cliche, but she says for the bourbon, and she knocks it back. Ted tries to cheer her up. And so like funny inversion of the kind of speech that he would give himself about finding someone. He tries to cheer her up, say like she'll find someone for him. She says no, he'll die alone. And Ted ends up referencing the Cockamice saying, if a cockroach and a mouse can find love in this crazy town, then so can I. And I was like, you're losing me. And Ted says that she'll keep at it, and this time for free. And she looks cheered up by this, though. And then we go to credits. So, do you have anything you want to discuss about this episode, Mickey?
No, I think we covered everything.
So, I think I could maybe talk a little bit more about the matchmaker thing
Oh,
because there
okay.
was a brief thing where I considered that.
Kind
Um,
of remember this.
so yeah, I was around the beginning of the pandemic. It was something I was looking into. There was like one well advertised one I'd seen around the area. And I took a look into it, and I was always a little skeptical, like how much they were asking for what they were like actually like saying they would do for you. It was like $5,000 to $10,000 depending on what you wanted, and all they were promising was a set number of first dates, and it didn't seem like there was any like what I would think of in terms of like a matchmaker, like if I were actually to do that, I would want someone who's like I'm gonna personally look for people or like, find like ways to meet people that are specific to you. But like the way it was structured, it was like they could pick several random people and like meet their photo and say
Hmm.
contract fulfilled. So I never quite got a good feel of it. So I never, you know, pulled the trigger on it.
That sounds like a bit of a racket.
Might be, maybe it works more for the people who would generally not have a problem normally, except like they're busy. Maybe like the people who
Hmm.
Ellen would put on her office wall rather than the bathroom wall. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
it does like it feels like it's so hard to meet people these days. It feels like it would be good to have like an agent who can kind of do some of the heavy lifting for you.
Yeah.
But the same token, it does sort of feel like Ted was saying like it feels like it's declaring failure in being able to meet someone. And there's definitely some of that to the psychology of deciding to try to go for a matchmaker.
Although, of course, there's certainly a history of matchmaking across time and across the world. This is tried and true for a lot of people.
I imagine it's that like having someone who can probably afford to dedicate that much time to you is probably someone who's like extra rich. Like, you'd probably be paying a
Yeah.
lot more to get, like, actual good matchmaking.
Mhm.
Alright, so do you have any that's so aughts for this episode?
No, but I like yours.
But yeah, phone book is definitely my pick. I'm sure there are some versions of that around, but, like, nobody has them,
No,
especially
I
nothing
was
that big.
just having this conversation with my grandmother like 3 hours ago where she was talking about looking somebody up in the phone book, and I said,
Mm,
hold on, slow down. You have a phone book? I didn't realize they made phone books anymore." And she said, "Oh, yeah, I get a phone book every year in the mail."
mhm. You think the Yellow Pages specifically is something
Maybe.
like that. Hey, kids, so the phone books, there were the white pages and the yellow pages. The white pages had everyone's so everybody in a certain area's name, address, phone number.
So that you could get more
You
easily murdered.
well, there wasn't so much murdering at the time, but it wasn't the fashion those days. But yeah, it was just standard that you could look anybody up in your area as long as you knew their name and address. And that's definitely gone. So it's kind of weird how privacy has shifted in different ways from like
Hmm.
we're very much more visible to society just online. We put so much of ourselves out there, but we keep our identity like information very private. Whereas kind of the reverse, complete reverse, like as soon as like 20 years ago. But anyway, so there was the white pages that were the residents living in the area. Then there were the yellow pages, which were the businesses, and people would pay for like different sized like ads in that area, and they could be extremely thick. And as you saw in this episode, for New York City, you might imagine they're very big. But that's who you would look up businesses at the time. You wouldn't have Yelp. You wouldn't have you go to the Yellow pages and see what businesses are around who are advertising their services, and yeah, that or the newspaper, R.I.P. newspapers. All right. So, what rating did you give this episode, Mickey?
Gave it You know what? I think I do need to start doing this by half points because it's just not going to reflect how I feel enough. I give it
Okay.
3.5 basal cell carcinomas.
Why 3.5?
It was a funny episode. I loved the Cockamace stuff. I think
Mm,
I gave it a lower rating than the last episode because I was cringing out so much watching the scenes in the dermatologist office.
yeah.
It wasn't enjoyable for me. It was like watching Scott's Tots.
Oh, which is worse, Scott's Tots or this?
Scott's Tots.
Yeah. That's especially those kids that he's letting go. Like, oh man. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the same reasons I said 3 of 5 compatibility points. The Cockamice story is like classic How I Met Your Mother. You could not do better than that in terms of like a funny side story. And the silliness it gets to, and like playing with like perspective, and like did people
Mhm.
really see what they said they saw? And um yeah, and we actually, so Ted doesn't even know what they saw. He never saw. He's just hearing what they said they saw. But the matchmaker storyline, I mean, there are a little funny parts, but it was still really on the creepy side for Ted. And like, if it was just that, I would have given it like a 2, I think. So we're sticking with the 3 for all told.
All right.
So that's this week's episode. So what do we see next week?
Next week is episode 8, The Duel, and episode 9, Belly Full of Turkey. Thanks for listening to Puzzles, a How I Met Your Mother re-rewatch.
Please subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app and follow us at Puzzles Re-Rewatch on Blue Sky, Instagram, and TikTok. You can also send us your thoughts, questions, and feedback to puzzlesrerewatch@gmail.com.
Leave us a review, or if you're not into the socials like yours truly, tell a friend about our show.
See you next time.